right, everyone. My name is Justine Weckwerth-Pineda, and a little background about me. I was born and raised in this area in Granite Falls. I received my bachelor's degree from SMSU, and then I went on to finish my master's in military psychology with an emphasis on PTSD and trauma from Adler University. And I'm currently in school at Walden University for my doctorate in forensic psychology with a specialization in victimology. But today I'm here to really talk to you about my truth when it comes to racism. It may not look like I face that, and I really myself don't, but I do to a point where I have a Mexican Hispanic husband. And then, look at my son. If you could see my son, the biggest thing is he's obviously very white passing and even looks like he has red hair. I promise it's not red. But my husband is the same way. My husband is a white passing Hispanic Mexican man. And that makes sometimes our lives a little difficult, especially in this rural area, with finding our heritage and how to pass it on to our son without people being, well, why are you doing that? So in this area, obviously, we have a mixture of people, but when people are white passing, not everybody understands why you try to still have the heritage that you grew up with. My husband was originally born in Colorado, and he was born, his mother is white, but his father is 100% Mexican, and he grew up for the first few years of his life back and forth in between both households. He remembers being at his grandparents' house where anything that was spoken in Spanish. Unfortunately, when he was about 7, his mom moved to Minnesota, and part of his life got left behind. And so he lost a lot of his heritage growing up because his mom never helped him remember his heritage or be really a part of it. And it took until he was adult and got back in contact with that side of his family. But when he's up here in Minnesota, he never really tried to find his heritage again. But now that we've had a son, he is regretting all that. And we've been trying to find ways to help raise our son in that heritage. And we get a lot of pushback for it, which I'm not sure why. It makes it a little hard. I know he's young, but when it came time to baptize him, we were trying to do it, with kind of a Mexican heritage background, kind of baptism, and have yet to find a place that was willing to really do it, being my husband wasn't really raised that way. So really that's kind of the truth about us and how we're trying to navigate our relationship and how to raise our son with it. Another thing for me is just growing up in the area I grew up in. It was really, most of my friends were white. I don't remember there being a Black person in my school. I remember growing up with Native Americans. And then for me, college was amazing because I ended up with so many people and felt more like my world had opened. And I wish more people would do that, because even though somebody is white passing, their color of their skin shouldn't define how we're allowed to have their traditions and their heritage. Has anybody ever done a 23andMe? So recently I did one of the 23andMe things, and I found out a lot more about myself than I thought I was. I didn't get to know a lot of my family, unfortunately, growing up, because I grew up with my mom and adoptive father. And it was really interesting for me when I got 23andMe back. So I've talked about how my husband is white passing and how my son is white passing. But when I got my 23andMe back, I actually found out I was actually born and raised thinking I was literally just like German. I was German. After I got my 23andMe back, I found out that I am actually part Native. And I also come from like the Norse Vikings. So for me, this has been amazing because I feel like now not only am I trying to find the heritage of the Mexican ancestors for my son and help my husband reconnect with him, I am trying to connect with where I come from. I did a lot of Native American studies in college just as part of my degree programming and stuff like that. So that I felt like, okay, well, I know. And coming from this area, having friends that were Native Americans, I've always gone to powwows and things like that. So I already felt like, okay, well, now I just know why I really loved being there. But the biggest thing now is we have done so much research on like Norse Vikings. My son's name is actually Alaric, which is an old Viking name. So I guess we've already tried to pull heritage from that. And it's really funny because my husband's name is Eric and his mom named him after Eric the Great Viking, even though he has no Viking ancestry. So when I found out before we had this little guy that I was part Viking, it, was really, really cool. So now in this household, we are trying to find the heritage of my husband to pass down. But we have started researching all the different Nordic Viking tales and Norse bedtime stories. Actually are really fun. We're learning about like Odin and Loki and Thor and all that stuff. And if anybody's ever watched any of the like Dragon Riders or How to Train a Dragon, that has recently become the new favorite in the household because you can actually just learn a lot from watching cartoons. So my biggest thing now is not necessarily the fact that we fight racism, but it's finding our heritage and bringing it back to life. Things that have been lost for generations that nobody's even talked about or known about. And to us, that's very important. And we want other people to know that find out where you come from and be proud of where you come from. If you need to do the research, if you don't know much about where you come from, that's perfectly fine, but don't be afraid to live that lifestyle for a while. One of my great friends grew up thinking, I think, that he was Swedish, and then he found out he was Scottish, and now he wears a kilt and goes to festivals, and to me, it's awesome. And I wish more people would do that. I wish more people would find out, where they lie. Like, most of us come from so many different things. It's very hard to say that we are strictly like one, ethnicity anymore. Most of us do come from several different, and that's okay. But find out where it is and find who you are and try to live part of it because it can be really fun. So why do I think it's important and beneficial to raise my child connected to their heritage? For me, it's very important because I feel like if I would have known growing up that I was part Native, I think I may have enjoyed life a little bit more by being able to maybe participate even a little bit in powwows or not just be there as an onlooker who looked like, why is this white person here watching? I think it's important to connect to your roots because if we can do that, the more we do that, the more we can see other people for who they are. It doesn't, I don't want certain things to define us, and the color of our skin definitely shouldn't be what defines us. It should be what's in our heart and looking back and being proud of everything that made us who we are. Finding out that I came from Vikings, one of my friends even told me, no wonder you are the way you are. like you trailblaze, like you have no problem stepping up, stepping forward, and being that loud, outspoken person. And even now, my husband, he's like, yep, shield maiden. And a shield maiden was exactly just, she fought alongside men Viking warriors. And she was just, obviously a woman, maiden, but she carried a shield and a sword. So shield maiden. So I think that's really cool. And I think that's really brave. And to me, those things are important. I don't want my son to just grow up thinking, this is who I am just based on his color of his skin. I want him to look back and look at pictures like in his father's family. Apparently every year when they're one, there's a sombrero that's been handed down for pictures. I want him to be able to be a part of that because it's a family tradition, but it also helps him connect with his roots. I don't know any Spanish. My husband knows very little, but I would love to learn because if this one ever goes to visit his great grandma, she doesn't speak English. We usually have to have my husband's father there because we've never been able to communicate. So I think if you know those things and you can bring back parts of your life or of your history, it's the things you'll get from it are more maybe emotional, but I think it's just something we all should have. We should all be able to say, this is who I am. And all these little different pieces made me who I am. So I don't know if that makes sense to a lot of people. Apparently he's trying to speak his truth today too.
So Joyce is asking Justine in the chat, do you have any tips for how to start that reconnection journey? People who don't have that connection? So starting the journey for my husband and my son was obviously a lot easier because we have family members still connected. His dad, my husband's dad, is coming up here for Thanksgiving and actually bringing the sombrero. So for us, that's great. And being able to connect with them, and we'll go out there next year for Christmas, and we're hoping great grandma is still alive because we really want to hear stories from her and things like that. Obviously we'll still need our interpreter, which would be, my father-in-law. So that's how we have reconnected that. For me, I don't have the connection on where to connect for my Norse Viking or my native, but by doing the 23andMe, I found that. So if anybody's ever interested, Ancestry.com or the 23andMe, anything like that can give you a little bit. And it's amazing the information you'll get from that. And then once you have that, I would just say research. Ancestry.com can sometimes hook you up with other family members, which is really cool. 23andMe just kind of tells you like the regions you're from and things like that, but it gives you a place to start your research. And obviously there's so much social media these days that you can obviously, again, if you are somebody, like me that has lost family members because you weren't raised fully with them or never knew them, there's ways, I guess, if you want to reach out. Some people do, some people don't. Otherwise, like I said, just the research. Like for me, finding the stuff on the Norse Vikings has been truly interesting. If you ever go on Amazon and try to search though, like for Vikings women clothing, you're really pretty much only gonna find the Minnesota Vikings clothing. Otherwise, you only find like Halloween costumes. But I was like, I would like to have something that's kind of, authentic and stuff like that. And I found like Gothic leggings. Apparently those fall into the Viking category. But I have not found anything other than I have found like different Viking makeups, and my daughter loves doing makeup, so she's been practicing on me. And then I have found different Viking hairstyles. So if you ever see me and I have some dreads in the back of my hair, not all over my hair, but in the back, it's probably just because I'm trying to connect with who I am a little bit. I think it'd be interesting to try it and see if I feel comfortable in my own skin with it. that's another thing, is seeing if you feel comfortable being that part of you. I think I would honestly love if I could wear some of the Viking makeup all the time, but I probably get some very strange looks all the time because normally they are like, half-faced makeup and all that stuff. But different cultures in a household and different heritages and customs, we try to do a little bit of it all. Obviously, Christmas is still huge in this house. Just, I've always loved Christmas, and so does my daughter. But trying to find different ways and different traditions to add into each holiday is very interesting and fun. Something that it's almost like starting your own traditions to pass down. So if you want to combine traditions and cultures, do it. One thing that we want to start doing that I never have done before is like a Day of the Dead, the remembrance table. We've never done that. And I think it'd be important and something to learn, to pass down. I know that some people do it a lot still. And my husband's always been interested. He said his grandma always had one up. So why not bring that back for both my husband and my son? Does anybody else have questions? Oh yeah.
Sorry.
Imposter syndrome is definitely something that a lot of people are going to feel. And a lot of people are going to look at you like an imposter. The thing is to remember that you're not doing this for other people. You're doing it for yourself and your family. And I know that we live in a society where we care so much about what other people think. But honestly, just think about the benefits if you have children, to your children. And the benefits to your whole family as a whole. Stop relying on what society thinks you should and shouldn't be, by the way you look, by who you are, what your name is, whatever. If you know that you come from that heritage and you want that heritage and that culture to be a part of your life and your family's lives, I think you just need to do it for you. You're going to probably feel like, oh, this doesn't really feel right. But maybe it takes a while for you to like understand it more and, get into it. Like I said, if I put the bottom of my hair in dreadlocks, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of people who look at me like, what's this white girl doing? But then I shouldn't have to explain to people that I'm trying to connect with my heritage. But if I do, I hope they understand. And I hope people don't think of, oh, she's trying to be like, this person or that person, or that I'm not being culturally respective if they think that I'm infringing on another culture. It's no, this is what I have found from my heritage, and I want to try it. I want to see how it feels for me. But again, I'm doing it for me, not for others. And if you're strong enough, you can shut out the opinion of others. So the raw issues, I don't have a lot of raw issues yet because obviously my son's only 2.5 months. One major thing I even made the mistake of doing though was at his first doctor appointment, I'm very used to clicking off the box that says white. I click it for me and my daughter. My husband fills out his own paperwork, so I've never had to click his box. And then I took him to his first doctor appointment and I automatically clicked the white button. And I was like, wait, that's not right. And I had to go back and change it. And I like places where you can click more than one. Because in that instance, for my son, I will click white and Hispanic. But the places where I'm only allowed to click one, I don't feel like that's fair. Because again, most of us have more than one. So why should we be put into a box or a category? So far, that's been my oops and my raw issue of trying to figure this out. But I have a feeling as we raise him more, we will face more of the whole white passing. My husband really doesn't, but that's because he's never pushed back against it. Here in Minnesota with his mom and his mom's family,
he actually dropped the last name Pineda for a long time. He just went by Weckwerth because that's what he was here. He saved the Pineda name for back in Colorado. And honestly, if you saw a picture of my husband, you're going to tell me that he's not only white passing, he's the whitest lumberjack you've ever seen. Which is, yeah, that's pretty accurate on how he looks. But now that he's had a son, he has brought back the Pineda name to Minnesota. And I think he's trying to find more of who he is in society's eyes. But again, I think the only reason he is doing it is for our son. And so I'm hoping one day, like, it kind of clicks for him again that, you know, it's where he comes from and he should be proud of it. But normally when he talks to people, he doesn't mention where he comes from or anything like that. And all of our heritage stuff so far has been at home. So we really haven't had to face a lot of those issues yet. But I know we probably will as this little one grows up. I do. I'm sorry, just moving the baby around a lot. So as a white parent to help identify with multiracial children, with other parents' ancestry, if I'm not familiar with it, again, research, a lot of it is research and reaching out to people of that heritage. Like, obviously, I have talked to my father-in-law a lot about what life was like for him as he grew up and what were some special things we could bring into our household as we raise Alaric. Another thing I did is, like I said, even though I was aware of like Native American culture and things like that, and growing up around powwows, when I found out from 23andMe that it was in my background, I reached out to one of my best friends who was part of the Upper Sioux community. And I was like, tell me more about like the life I missed, kind of like, what was it, you know, some of the struggles, and like, because I obviously didn't face those. I easily could have if I would have been raised with the father I didn't know. So, you know, it's just, again, you know, if you're not familiar with it, find a way to familiarize yourself with it and find a way to be able to be okay with that. Obviously, there's so many different ways you can research. You can reach out to people of, you know, that culture, that ancestry. You can, everything's online. Look online. You can find so many things, from documentaries to books. But I think the best way to help my son identify with it is to familiarize myself with it and to bring it into our lives as much as possible. If they don't have good relationships and role models from that culture, which would honestly probably be what my husband has gone through, you know, when he moved up here, he lost those relationships. And for him, he lost it completely until, you know, he became an adult and started contact with that family again. If you don't have anybody from that culture, you know, you can, again, reach out to maybe anybody. And if you explain why you're doing it, I don't know a single person that I know that would be like, no, not gonna help you. You know, I know, like, with working at SMSU, if I struggle, I could probably walk into anybody's office of a different culture and be like, so here's the deal. I found out, like, my son is, you know, this is our ancestry, but I don't know anything about it. Can you help me? And I don't think anybody that I know would be like, not gonna help you find your heritage at all. Like, I think some people would gladly accept it and welcome you with open arms and be like, here's how we do this. Let me show you how to make fry bread, or, you know, like all those different things. It's in small communities, and even I think in larger communities, if you can find just even one person to help you on your journey, it's so going to be worth it. And you're going to find maybe another family within that culture, because family doesn't have to necessarily be the blood that you were raised in or the people you were raised with if they weren't blood. You can make your own families. And
I've done that time and time again with different friends and different work relationships. And that's just it. If I wanted to reach out to somebody around here, like I grew up with a couple friends that were Hispanic back in high school. I actually ran cross country with two of them and they were amazing. And I'm sure right now, if I was like, hey, our Hispanic family lives in Colorado, can you help me? I am sure one of my best friends, Melissa from high school, would be like, okay, come over. We're going to have a big Mexican meal. You're going to see what we do here. You're going to see all this stuff. And I think it would be amazing. So just, don't be afraid to reach out and start new relationships to find role models for that culture.
I have a question that's easier to articulate verbally, so I'm just going to ask you, and you'll know who I'm talking about when I ask the question because she's a mutual friend. So how do you navigate the space when you're in this situation with who we're talking about, you're the parent who's white and you're raising interracial children from a heritage that isn't represented in your household and helping them navigate spaces when they come into racial issues, let's say at school? What does allyship look like while also parenting when you're coming from the space of privilege?
I think for the person you're talking about, for her, she has done an amazing job with her children. So she was talking about a friend of ours who is white and raises children who are half white and half African American. And she raises them here in this area, which sometimes can be very hard. Granted, there are a few more like in, the Marshall area or whatever, but in the school that these boys went to, they were the only children with the darker skin tone. And there were several days where they were actually, the racial slurs had started. And for her, that was so hard. Because she, white woman with no one else to help her really raise them. I think she did amazing. She lets them rejoice in who they are. One of her sons is full on, Black Lives Matter. And he was like using Sharpies or whatever to write it down his arms. And he's so proud of who he is. And she doesn't enforce that, but she supports it. And she's like, yes, this is who you are. And this is never be afraid of who you are. But sometimes she's even had to fight the system on it. And it's so sad that she has to do that. Sometimes she talked about going to a bigger city where there was more of that. But it is nice, I know for her, that she can reach out to other people for that support and ask them, how they would navigate it and things like that. But she has never, and she's even been told that, sometimes her kids are more white passing. They're just, they just look tan. And she hates that. Absolutely. Like, don't tell my kids that, oh, thank goodness they look white. Like, let them be proud of who they are. And I fully agree. So yeah, her and I can have some interesting conversations about like, how do we do this? And how do we get them from what society thinks they should be? And that being white passing is so much easier. Okay, it might be to a certain extent, yeah. But then if we keep doing that to our children, if we keep telling them that they need to be white passing, or, being they look white passing, they should celebrate that, we're losing and telling them to shut down who they are. And that's not okay. So having her boys be so proud of who they are, and her supporting them in every step of that way has just, it's awe-inspiring actually, to watch her go up against the systems as she raises them and supports them. I think for her, a lot of it is, finding the help and the support that she needs to support them. And then, I think as they get older and maybe branch out in their friendships, that'll even help more. So any resources that I've found, obviously, like I said, 23andMe and Ancestry.com are amazing. I will always recommend those. I know they can sometimes be a little spendy or whatever, but they are truly amazing if you want to find out about, who you are, even if you think you know who you are, even if like your family has been like, oh, we're like Irish in this, or we're this, or just this. Do it, because you may even surprise your parents and grandparents. They may not even know fully where they come from anymore. And that's just it. Doing things like that. Good books, honestly. I think you could probably just search anything on Amazon about cultures and the culture you're looking for, and then look at the book reviews. I have found some amazing ones on the Norse mythology. We haven't really gotten any on the Mexican culture, just because we were trying to connect with his family to do that. I haven't so far looked into organizations in the area on any of them, but I do know, like at SMSU, there is the awesome like Indigenous wing at the school, and that's pretty cool. Around here, it's pretty easy for me to like, go down to Granite Falls or over by Redwood to hit up Native American culture, if I need to. But for right now, we're just taking it day by day, step by step, and slowly trying to integrate things into our life. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves with trying to figure all this out and be like, oh, we're going to totally switch the way we live. We just feel like if we do it a little bit at a time and find out more about ourselves to be able to pass down different things to our children, that's what's important to us.
I'm going to throw out there one good book if we're talking about like raising interracial children. One really good children's book is I Am Whole by Shola Oz, I want to say, and I'll throw it in the chat. It's like a multiracial children's book that's celebrating diversity. It's a really good introduction. I'm obviously going to throw the More Network out there as a great resource. If people are kind of feeling like they're trying to navigate this space and they don't really know where to start, because again, raising kids is just like a community-based thing. And so while I might not have the answer, or Julie might not have the answer, that doesn't mean we don't know someone who might have a good answer, a good resource, or a good connection. So like for you, Justine, specifically, connecting with my husband who's in here, Tyson, who is a Viking, 100% Viking, in regards to like connecting with that heritage, that's easy, And so just being in those spaces to find those people, find those connectors that can help us all in this journey. So
yeah, I do know that like the friend we were talking about, she has some amazing books that she found for her kids, and like even like for other kids at the school. And it's, some of them are about, it's not just black and white, or I think one she found is I Am Who I Am, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So she's got some really, really great ones. And, but she's also been doing this for a lot longer than I have when it comes to the multiracial children. So yeah, she definitely, she has just a plethora of different things. And I know that she's used them with her kids. She's offered them to schools to help other kids understand at a young age. So I think that's amazing. And as a mother, to advocate for your kids like that is great.
Now, Justine, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, either like to follow up on this conversation or just to pick your brain, how would you like people to reach out to you?
Let me see. I will put my personal email here in the chat.
Perfect.
Yes, I am typing, which means I'm not holding you. You're fine.
While you're doing that, like I came in here, of course, expecting to ask questions and have them answered. Looking from a place of learning. But one of the things that I've really found where I can add to this conversation is through food.
Yes.
Definitely expose your child to the food of their parent cultures.
Yes. I kind of totally like forgot about that. I cannot eat the food my husband eats. Like I will make food, and then my husband, we have one whole cabinet dedicated to spice. Okay. I cannot do it. I will die of heartburn within an hour. So I will usually make food, and then he can add every spice he needs to later. My daughter, who is not his biological daughter, she also has found that she loves spice though. So she's even connecting with him through that. We'll see how this one grows up, if his stomach is more like mom's or dad's. But I have tried to start making more authentic Mexican meals. I'm working on it. I'm a really great cook when it came down to what my grandma taught me to make. But we're talking not really anything outside like my normal realm. So I have been trying to learn how to cook different Mexican cuisines and things like that. I'm getting a little bit better using green chili because I was never good at green chili. But one thing I do want to learn how to make like myself now is fry bread, which I've never learned how to make before. Okay, see, look at that. So I do want to learn how to make fry bread, and I'm, we're slowly food is definitely a big thing and one easy thing to bring into a family. So
I 1,000% agree. Like the big ones like food, music, art, those are really easy ways to connect with the culture and also help navigate the imposter syndrome space, because we've all agreed that anyone can partake in those three, and that allows people to feel like a sense of being and belonging.
Yes. Yeah. And music in this house has always been a big thing. It really depends upon the mood of every person in this household. Obviously, my 11-year-old daughter is going to listen to, well, pretty much anything. Though she got really excited and she came downstairs the other day. She's like, "Mom, you ever heard of this song?" And I started laughing. She's like, "What?" I was like, "So you're gonna Panic at the Disco, huh?"
Yeah, so is our son. I was like, "We did it right."
She's like, "So this isn't new music?"
Oh my God.
It's not old either, but okay.
No, I mean, it's kind of old now, but
Old now.
Yeah, it's old now. Yeah. But other than that, we did get something from Eric's grandmother, and that was a CD of like some Mexican lullabies. And so that's been really cool at night to listen to with him. Nobody in this family is Irish, but we love Celtic lullabies too. So somebody told me though that sometimes Celtic lullabies and like Viking lullabies could have been close. I'm not sure if that's true.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
So yeah, that's something that I've been trying to look into, because finding stuff like that. But so we really like those ones too. So yeah, finding, whatever our mood is at the time, and listening to things. We play a lot of if anybody's seen the Disney movie Encanto. So we actually listened to that in the original Spanish version, and he loves it. That's actually how I get my dishes done every day, because I put him in his little bouncer with that music. And he usually will dance for a while and then fall asleep. So that's cool. But yeah, just the different things you can find. There's so many different things. But like I said, my daughter loves to do makeup. So for her to do like the Viking makeup for us has been another way for her and I to connect. And so she's practicing on me, and then she's learning to do it on herself as well. So yeah, food, music, I mean, everything. Just find what works for your family, really.
Awesome. Well, does anyone else have any other questions?
This is Conchita, and I'm from Mexico, but I'm vice versa from you. I'm married to an American guy. Our kids are biracial too. So my son is now 27. My daughter is going to be 25. And since Skyler, my son, was 1 year old, I bring him to Mexico. So since then until today, he loved my country. My daughter does too. They both are bilingual. I always speak to them in Spanish. My husband does in English. And they actually speak Korean. So they are trilingual. They love, like you say, they went to college. They're exposed to more culture than mine. So her eyes are open, but there is some, not problems, but there is some things that like Joyce was saying about when family gathering, we had that conversations, and there is you feel uncomfortable because they're saying things that make you feel you don't belong to them. So how do you manage that when you don't feel like you belong, when you are in this gathering? Thanksgiving actually is only us, because we cannot feel belong to his family, and especially and things that they say. And then with the political issues that we have in this country, I think the tension was bigger than they just, I'm from Mexico, and I'm a mother or their grandkids and things like that. How do you manage that?
Well, first, I want to say that I'm very proud of you for some amazing kids there. If they're trilingual, like, way to go on being an amazing parent. And then I want to apologize for how his family treats you. I don't think that that's okay. I wish people wouldn't do that, making you not feel comfortable there and talking about you like you don't belong, can make things very hard. And what I've learned in my family is there are times where if I'm not accepted, it hurts the first few times I don't go, but eventually I become stronger for it, and I become more comfortable in my own skin, if that makes sense. I am not one to say cut ties with anybody who doesn't agree with you, but if there's somebody that is supposed to be a part of your life as family and love you and accept you for who you are, whether you married into that family or whether, I mean, obviously your children are his children, their grandchildren, their family. And if they can't accept them, then that's a tie that doesn't need to be there. They should never have to go anywhere where they're not loved and accepted. And that's how I feel on that. And I've done that in my own family. And I mean, it was with my adoptive family, but I never belonged just because I was adopted. It wasn't even about my culture. And I walked away from that family the minute I could, because it hurt every holiday to be there. But I do want to apologize that you and your children have had to go through that. But I think maybe then you just lean on each other more and you grow that way.
Thank you, Maria, for your bravery and sharing your truth too.
Yes, thank you. I myself felt like when I entered into a relationship with a Black woman and I brought her home to family events, if they didn't support that decision, I felt like I had to be a part of that family, the family I created rather than the family that I came to. And I would have cut off anyone who I had to maintain that family relationship. And honestly, if your husband doesn't feel that way, you really have to ask him why. Why would you put yourself in this position to not be accepted by your own family if you weren't willing to cut ties with your own family?
I've been asking that question for 27 years, almost 28. But I think manipulation, maybe. You know, his parents are divorced, so each one has his own family, and they manipulate him since he was 4 and still until today. And it's hard because they are his parents. So I respect that, but I know where you're just saying, I wish that when everything started, my husband would put the foot on and say, she's my wife, she's the mother of my kids, and this is my family, but he doesn't. So because the manipulation maybe, or I don't know what it is, but he's always afraid to stay up for himself and his family. So I had to do it, and now I am the bad person in this. So
No, you're
his
the
whiteness,
good person. You're the good person.
the
You're the good
whiteness
person.
on this thing, it is always come out because I'm from Mexico and I'm outside it, and I don't understand it. I really don't.
You can be an outsider, but you can still be accepted. That's the thing. You can be an outsider, but you can still be accepted. And It sounds like you did the right thing, and he has his foot in two places, and he needs to make a choice. That's what that's what it says to me. He needs to make a choice. He needs to pick one or the other.
And in the meantime, you've raised children that get it, that see the importance in navigating those spaces and being exposed to different cultures. So you have that victory there.
Thank you.
And they should know all of their heritage. They should. That's something that I'm struggling with, but you have an opportunity to make that happen, and you took it, and that is a good thing.
Yeah, I'm proud of myself of knowing that my kids are proud of who his mom and her mom is.
Yes.
You know, they're very proud of me, and they love my country, and they love my family. They see my family who live 2,500 miles away more than they see his family. But it's so, for me, it's kind of sad because family is family. Like Justine said, even her friend from another state will give her life for her. So it's what you expect from family. I was born and raised in that traditional family with love, and it was hard for me to come to here and knowing his family how dysfunctional is, and I never was exposed to that, so it's kind of different from me, and I don't understand still until today, you know, because they have each other and they don't help each other. They don't count on each other.
But there's something to be said for you breaking that generational curse through his family in the way that you reared your children together. Because that's what that sounds like a generational curse of dysfunction in that family. And you came into his life and helped break that familial curse in his family and raise children that understand the power and the conviction and love and celebrating culture and family and what family is supposed to look like. Therefore, allowing them to have families of their own in the future, or maybe they already have, and understand the importance of that. So healing that wound for multiple generations to come. And that's powerful.
Definitely.
We have a really good conversation going on, guys. I appreciate everything you guys are saying as well. I do have to take my leave as a tech person here.
Yes.
So Justine, if you want to continue this conversation, do you want me to make you a host here?
Does anybody have any other questions?
No, I think we should be good. I just want to say, Justine, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day for this.
Of course.
Again, email your personal emails in the chat. So if you want to connect, whether more conversations about this, connect on a human to human level because something resonated, please do, because that's what these spaces are for. They're for making those sincere connections with people and all of us growing and changing together. So thank you again for your time. I really appreciate you.